Remember the threat of nuclear weapons? Nuclear weapons, the threat of nuclear weapons was something I grew up with, uh, back in the 60s, 70s, whatever. It was like the big boogeyman of my teenage years. I suppose that today's teenagers are having a different boogeyman, and that's the terrorists and the whatevers, but and the they don't know as much about the nuclear threat. Okay, so there's a new movie, Countdown to Zero, that goes over the nuclear threat and the modern nuclear threat. The modern nuclear threat isn't just big bad countries like Russia or China who have as much resources as we do and have built up a big stockpile of nuclear weapons, whatever. It's also the countries, it's the terrorist organizations, and it's the crumbling Soviet Union and their rusting nuclear facilities and lack of security. So this movie does a great job of reintroducing us to the fear of nuclear weapons. It is a great piece of Fearism, and it also has a lot of good information about the threat of nuclear weapons. So there was a couple things I thought of uh, while looking at this movie. Was one is the Fearism thing, and the other is the reality. Okay, so Fearism, I see Fearism as a it's like a political gambit or a political tool, kind of like terrorism as a political tool. Terrorism as a political tool is the use of terror to cause fear in a society so that the society does the thing that the terrorist organization wants. I don't think the role of terrorism is uh, crazy people who just want to kill lots of people. They instead, terrorism is about causing some political change to occur through the use of fear and violence, violence, violence that causes fear. Um, so fearism, as a general practice, is something where you portray a story that that is meant to cause fear in your audience. And part of the reason for causing fear in your audience is to uh, cause your audience to want to do something uh, in order to solve the problem that you've made them fearful of. So in this case, it's about nuclear weapons and proliferation and the danger of uh, terrorist organizations getting their hands on nuclear weapons. Um, and they do a really good job in this movie of explaining those things, and there is a lot of reality to what they say. There is a lot of reality in the story that they present. So I'm putting air quotes around things and so on, uh, and don't take that as a I'm trying to diminish this because it does look like a real threat. But at the same time, they portrayed this in Fearism style, where that is, uh, the movie appears to be uh, uh, constructed to cause the viewer to become afraid, and and then what is their agenda? So uh, the people that are shown in the movie that are being interviewed in the movie, Valerie Plame is a major source in this movie. Valerie Plame, you may recall, was a high-level CIA agent uh, who worked on weapon proliferation in the CIA, but then was outed because of Dick Cheney and his desire to undermine some reports her husband made uh, about the truth or lack of truth of. Uh, so we got to rewind a few years. So back in 2003, there was all this fear mongering done about Iraq, and claiming that Iraq was developing nuclear weapons and that Iraq was a big danger because they were developing nuclear weapons, and so that therefore the U.S. needed to invade Iraq in order to stop them from developing nuclear weapons. And Valerie Plame's husband did investigations and found that certain things uh, that were being claimed were bogus, and he sent a report to the people in Washington saying, "Oh, there's nothing to those claims," but they wanted to shut him up, and they smeared him and they smeared his wife. They disclosed that his wife was a CIA agent, um, which is treason, and Dick Cheney was the cause of that, and Dick Cheney was never tried for treason. So anyway, that's a tangent about this, sort of. Um, Other people that are in the movie are former President Jimmy Carter. He, you may recall, was a nuclear scientist before he became president. Another one was Mikhail Gorbachev, uh, Zbigniew Brzezinski, various other top-level things, people rather. They're not things; they're people. Um, uh, and included I guess he would be an Air Force officer, but somebody who was stationed in one of the launch tubes and had he was the person whose finger was on the trigger if there was ever to be an order to launch, and so on. So I'm getting distracted. So it's a good movie. It's a good movie with lots and lots of good information. But the information they present is also done in Fearism. And I just kept going back and forth between, wow, there's a lot of good information here, but they're putting it in a Fearism thing. And one of the targets appears to be Iran. And so there's been this effort over several years to portray Iran as developing nuclear weapons. And uh, so there's this line of proliferation, though, that starts in Pakistan. And Pakistan is supposedly one of our allies, aren't they? But the Pakistani government has been deep up to their necks in proliferation. Their chief nuclear scientist, A.Q. Khan, was the head of a big proliferation network sending nuclear weapons information all around the world to all sorts of countries, and that included Iran. So there's probably some official concern or knowledge that A.Q. Khan gave all the information to Iran that Iran would need to build nuclear weapons. So maybe that's part of this campaign to portray Iran as a nuclear threat. But this information is being used to justify an invasion of Iran. So, the question we have to ask is whether whether that information is true and whether uh, Iran is being fairly portrayed as a nuclear weapons wannabe, or whether it's again a condition of concocted false stories that just like when they lied about Iraq and used false allegations of nuclear weapons development in Iraq to justify invading Iraq, are that is the same thing true with Iran, or is Iran really working on developing nuclear weapons? So this is one of the problems of lying in order to create a war is when you make the same claims about some other country, uh, it makes us think, oh, you lied before, so how can we trust you now? So anyway, it's a good movie. I've written a good blog post about this movie as a review, and that'll be linked on the YouTube page for this video.